All right, hello everyone, and welcome to this Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 tutorial in the legendary Douglas DC-9. Today we are going to be flying Ameristar DC-9. It's a very iconic aircraft, and this unique learning opportunity has only presented itself after like a year, because no one really is flying this aircraft for some reason. So I've decided to step in following endless requests for a tutorial. Today we are going to be flying the DC-9 according to real procedures, and we are going to thoroughly master the aircraft. Whether you're here to learn about the vintage autopilot or just about how to operate the systems of the DC-9, I've got you covered. This is Joshua757. My channel specializes in classic aircraft masterclasses, okay? So please don't go anywhere else. There's no need for you to do so. Stick around till the end, and I assure you that you will have a fantastic time today. And thank you for joining me today live. If you can hear me all good and fine, I'd appreciate if someone could just put a thumbs up in the chat, okay? So then we can establish that it's all okay. Right, so I'm going to be following Eastern Airlines procedures today, so you're in good hands. And there's always a little bit of overlap in procedures. I was looking at British Midlands Airlines procedures, actually, but I found the Eastern Airlines one more thorough, so that's the one I'm going to teach you today. So let us get started right away. A bit of mission briefing. Where are we? We are at Memphis International Airport. And the reason I chose this airport is because you need a route which can fly VOR to VOR, okay? If you're choosing a route that doesn't have that capability, your options are limited, because don't bother looking for an INS or an FMC. This aircraft simply doesn't have one. We have to go back to basics, and that's what we're going to do today. So let us get started at once. And I've chosen the the dawn view today, because I think that's the most visually pleasing, that is, at least. So let us get started. We're going to start off with the external inspection and a little bit of pre-flight before we apply the power to the aircraft. Okay, enough rambling from me. Let's get started. So, arrival at the airplane safety inspection. Okay, maintenance personnel check. Flight control surfaces are clear. Aircraft maintenance log checked. Landing gear doors are closed. These are the kind of things you would do in the walk around. Cockpit safety inspection is next. Okay, so landing gear lever is down. That's pretty obvious. Auxiliary hydraulic pump is off. Alternate pump off. Engine driven hydraulics set to high. And flap and slat lever is in agreement with what we saw on the outside, okay? If it's not, then set the flap and handle to whatever value is showing on the outside, okay? And air conditioning switches, supply switches, they're off. That is the cockpit safety inspection complete. Okay, next is electrical power needs to be established. So let's do that right away. So coming over here, we need to check our battery volts. So moving the selector to battery volts like so, we need to verify 25 battery volts as a minimum. Okay, now it should show over here, because this is the DC volt selector, but for some reason it's showing it up here, which is technically incorrect. Okay, so this is something they need to work on. Okay, so battery volt is checked, battery on. Observe general lighting of the aircraft. And what we're going to do now is establish. There we go, GPU power available. Let's check its output and let's establish that. There we go. GPU is online. And let me just check the volume very quickly. Okay, right, let's continue on. So the GPU is nicely powered up the aircraft. Ensure that your AC bus cross tie is set to auto. DC bus tie cross tie should be set to open, like so. Continuing on with the checks, we need to check our emergency power. So all you do is move the rotary selector to the on position, and the available emergency power in use light should illuminate. So this is a modeling deficiency of the aircraft. See, if I do a warning and cautions test, you can see it illuminate. Similarly, when you turn it on, you should observe battery amps being drawn out by the system, and battery volts the needle should go to the right hand side. And then when you switch the emergency power off, the needle should deflect to the left, indicating battery charging, but all that's not modeled, okay? So it's kind of thing you need to accept with this add-on. It's not perfect, but it sure isn't the latest 737-100. Okay, so we've done our electrical checks, and the preference is to use ground air conditioning whenever possible, but today I'm going to use the APU. So all we need to do is turn on one of the right AC boost pumps, and now we're going to set the APU to start and then run. So hold it down, allow a bit of spooling up, and then set it to the run position. It's now self-sufficient. Also, a couple of other things. Throttle should be idle, fuel levers should be at cutoff, all that general stuff. And yeah, let's adjust our lighting now so we can see a little better in the cockpit. There we go. It's looking good. Let's come over here and adjust the instrument panel lightings. Let's get a bit of red lighting in, a bit of white lighting, and let's get the flood lights on. There we go. So now things are really brightening up and looking quite visually spectacular, actually. So it's not that bad, actually, if you go to see. I do find this add-on quite enjoyable, but I do understand it's not the best of add-ons, but at the same time, for those that need to fly this aircraft, I'm here to provide you the tutorial that you need. Okay, so just adding in some lights. There we go. Looks really nice now. And let's see. The APU, is it online yet? So let's go to... Got some strange fluctuation here with battery amps. Let's go to the APU section. And we've got a frequency, but we don't have any AC volts, and that is strange, okay? But the blue light is on, so let's avail of the APU. You can now see the APU gen is online, and let us disconnect the external power now, like so. Okay, a bit strange all this going on. It should show 115 volts, but never mind. Let's also open up the cross blades, like so. We need to route pneumatic APU air to the pneumatic system. Let's get APU air on, and let's get the packs on. So select them to HP bleed off for the time being, okay? There we go. So we got nice cooling air to the aircraft as well. Right, so now we need to do our fuel system checks, tank pump and crossfeed checks. So notice these two low pressure lights, okay? Left inlet fuel pressure low and right inlet fuel pressure low. So the way you would accomplish this task is you would turn on each of the left hand side boost pumps, and notice the left inlet light should extinguish, okay? So this is another deficiency of the add-on. Then you would turn the right ones on, and the right hand side should extinguish. And similarly with the right hand side boost pump on, you would open up the cross feeds. This is what the real pilots would do on the DC-9. And then the left-hand side fuel pressure low should extinguish as well. So that's something to keep in mind, okay? That's how the real DC-9 performs. And similarly, if you were starting up the APU on battery power alone, you would use the start pump. This is a DC-powered switch, which is an DC-powered pump in the right-hand side wing. So you turn that on and the right-hand side inlet low pressure light should go out. So those are a couple of things to bear in mind. So that's the fuel system checked. The next set of checks is the hydraulics. So we need to come over here. And what we do for this test is we move the auxiliary hydraulic pump, which is this one, to the override position momentarily, observing pressure rise, and then press the switch to on. Okay, so let's do that. There we go. And it should rise to about 3000 psi. But in this case, it doesn't. So we've got a deficient pump. And similarly, on the overhead panel, the pilots would confirm that the right-hand side pressure low hydraulic light is extinguished. If I do the annunciator light test, you can see which one I'm talking about. I'm talking about this one, where my mouse is, right? Hydraulic pressure low. So this light is extinguished, which is all good. But also the rudder control manual light should go out as well. This light has gone out. Yep, so that seems to be working well. But on the other hand, when you turn it off, you realize those annunciator lights never come on to begin with. So, yeah. So then, let's see. Right, the next set of tests is, and let's turn the pump off as well. There's no need to keep it on now. Actually, yeah, we do for the anti-skid test. So the next set of tests is the anti-skid. So we're going to set it to arm, like so. Cycle it from off to arm. And on certain aircrafts, the parking brake must be off for the valid test. Ensure the wheels are chocked. So let's do that right away. So let's open up the EFB. It's got a nice paper one over here. So let's get the chocks on. Let's get the front door open as well. Quite cool. Okay, so let's release the parking brake. And we set the anti-skid to the armed position. And what you do next is you check the anti-skid lights. So in the real aircraft, you would select loop A and B and then do the test. But it's not possible in the sim to hold those two down at the same time. So I think they've simplified it a bit. And you should see the 4 anti-skid lights. Okay, so that's as much as we can do for the test. And let's cancel that. Okay, so that is the test. And then we could put the auxiliary hydraulic pump off. Right. Next, on certain DC-9s, there's a brake temperature test. There's one over here. So you press the test button, observe all 4 needles rise to the topmost position. And a couple of other things that you do in the real aircraft is check your other stuff, like whether you have emergency masks and that kind of stuff, which we're not going to do today. There's also an interior inspection that needs to be done. Hello, Airliners X, how are you doing? So, this is a cargo variant, actually, and this aircraft is very much in service with Amerijet. So, here's the cargo bay. Quite interesting, and it's really nice to see how these planes are still in service. It's real good. It's okay. I'm glad that you're able to join me, even if it's just for 10 minutes. and hope you learned something, and feel free to ask any questions. Okay, so let's interior inspection is checked, exterior inspection, we're not going to worry too much about all that. We've done a little preliminary item, and seems there's a helicopter taking off outside. Anyway, so we're going to continue on with the checks. The flight recorder switch is actually a circuit breaker switch, which circuit breakers are not modeled in this aircraft, but if you really must know, the switch is located on circuit breaker panel at D10. So ensure that's latched in. Then you do the flight recorder test. You press and hold the test button for about 5 seconds and observe the needle. But yeah, that doesn't work. Anyway, standby horizon is caged. Circuit breakers, they're all in. GPWS is on, like so. And yeah, voice recorder, we already checked that. Altitude alert. So here's the altitude alert system. And on the real aircraft, there's actually a test for this, but doesn't seem to be here. So let us set about 10,000 feet or so. It's just a reminder at the end of the day. It doesn't actually capture your altitude. That's one item you need to be mindful about. Okay, so then emergency lights. Let's set them to the arm position. Notice the, what's it called? The annunciator went out. And ice protection, we need the windshield on, windshield heats on. And the captain could actually visually, physically, test it out by placing his hand on the windshield, it seems, and checking it all works. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to slightly deviate from this, because this is just like a scattered item, and I'm going to quickly go through the overhead panel in a systematic way and just ensure everything's checked. So coming over here, CSD disconnect is all guarded and stuff, and the CSD temperature should be 0 right now, so we can verify that because the engines are not running, and it stops at this very strange intermediate position instead of being at 0, so that's weird. We can also reset our engine generators like so. The galley power I can turn on, but according to British Midlands CBT, it's not recommended right away. Hello there, Manflex. I heard that you got a new YouTube channel, and this is the new title. How are you doing today? I'm all good, and what about you? Today's Friday, so how are you going to spend the rest of your Friday? Other than watching this video, of course. Okay, so galley power I'll keep off for the time being. Start pump is off, we don't need that. Fuel heats, they should be off. And yeah, emergency lights we've armed. Let's get the no smoking, fasten seatbelt signs on. Yeah, that is actually a relief, and I hope that other people who are watching this stream can see your channel, and they can, you get the attention that you deserve really for your channel. Okay, so coming over here, the AC volt selector should be set default position to the right hand side generator, like so. APU panel, the discharge agents are all off. Ram air doors are off, and so on. That's all good. Emergency power does not work in this add-on. And yeah, let's do our probe heat check. So let's select each station, observe a current value, and when you go to the wrap probe, it should actually drop down to 0, because it doesn't actually give you a reading until you're on the air. So that's inaccuracy of the system. Okay, overhead lights have been adjusted as required. we also have a cockpit floodlight if there was a event of a thunderstorm, so you can just get that extra visibility. Okay, and anti-skid, we've already tested that. Yaw damper, let's turn that on. And the associated annunciator light should go off, but yeah, it doesn't seem to be modeled. Also, the speed test, the SCAT, this is a very interesting item. You press it to slow, and you should then observe the ADI, and the fast slow indicator should go to the slow position, and similarly you do the fast test as well, and the fast slow pointer should move to the fast. I mean, that's how it happens in the real DC-9, but not in this one, unfortunately. There's also a whole section on Mac trim compensator, which I had no idea about, actually. And let's discuss that a little bit. It's quite interesting. Also, the air conditioning auto shut-off switch should be set in the armed position. This is if there's an engine failure, it shuts off both packs. You can override your selection by setting it to override. And that's something that you do on the DC-9 at 10,000 feet. You select it to override. Ram air is off, we don't need it, because we've got our pack flow. Okay, pressurization, let us set that now. And we set our flight altitude today. And that is, let's see, let's put it like 25,000 feet or something like that. And the guidance is you set the cruise altitude to your actual cruise altitude plus 1,000 feet. Okay, so that's a quite interesting consideration. So if I'm cruising at 25,000 feet, you set this to 26,000 feet. Okay, that is according to the actual FCOM. Okay, windshield wipers off. We can set it to park, you know, if they were like in the way. And we can do our annunciator light test like so. And as you can see, a couple of the boxes are not even modeled, so that's kind of disappointing. And just checking the reverser lights, autopilot, flight mode annunciators, and yeah, all checks out. So let's release the test, and yeah, let's continue on with our checks. Let's get the position light on. That lets everyone know that we're powered up. And yeah, let's do the fire warning as well. It's something we should do before starting the engines. We press loop A, loop B, and if I could hold it down enough, I would also check the corresponding warnings on the annunciator panel. Okay, engine oil quantity, let's check that right now, and it should be around 6 to I think 12 quarts, I think, so it's more than enough. That's all well and fine. And checking our forward instruments, let's select heading select mode on the flight director, and we can't check the marker beacons. Also, let's check our air sources, all in the norm position. And altimeter, let's check that out. So the ATIS is 127.750. So let's go to our VHF. Actually, I'm just going to cheat a bit. I'm going to press the B key and set our altimeter. So there we go, set it. And after our transition altitude of flight level 180, then I'll set it to 29902. Okay, coming over here, instruments all good, no flags. Let's do a fuel used to reset. Let's do a fuel quantity test. Actually, hang on. Let's set our load. So coming over here, weight and balance. I'm going to select medium load and update that. There we go. And there we go. We've got fuel in all 3 tanks, including the center tank. So let's do our fuel quantity test now. observe that all the gauges should then reduce to 0. So that's a good test. And a quick question for you, Max Flex. So what aircraft are you going to fly later on? Have you thought about it? Okay, so that's the check done. And yeah, we've done all that. So let's continue on. Can do our instrument warning reset. All that. We've already done our brake temperature check. So on. So let's continue on with checks, right? So we need to turn these two to on because we're going to do VOR to VOR. Like so. Radar test, I'm not going to do that because it's definitely not modeled. Surprisingly, there's a TCAS test of some kind. So let's select mode C and altitude reporting. Funnily, there's a test actually, so this one, and actually says TCAS test okay, which is quite interesting. Anyway, so stabilizer trim, that's the next thing we should check out. So let's use our pickle switches first, like so. Let's use the suitcase handle. That all checks out. And let's try the alternate system as well. There we go. All checks out. And, oh, this is another crucial item. The cabin outflow valve should be set to auto, okay? Someone's got it in manual. This is one of the main things that people miss, okay? I've seen people flying the MD-80, the DC-9 in the sim and wondering why they're getting pressurization warnings. Over here, cabin pressurization, it's because they've forgotten to set this in the auto position, okay? So that is the proper config. Okay, so that's a lifesaver, really. Okay, spoiler lever is in the forward and disarm position. Cross-feed lever, is in the off position. Cabin pressure control lever is in auto. Right, we're coming over to the final cockpit preparation. And that is pretty much similar to what we were doing with the instruments, electrical panel earlier on, emergency lights, no smoking, and so on. Windshield heats. Anti-skid should actually be off for before start, which is... that's all good and fine. The Mac trim compensator is actually quite an interesting item. Just wanted to discuss that. Also, we need to set our radio rack to fan, although on the ground it operates on fan regardless of the switch position. This allows the hot air that cools the radio systems and avionics to be fed into the forward cargo compartment bay, which is good for live animals and so on. Okay, so enough on that. The Mac trim compensator test is quite an interesting one, which is over here. This one, it's a Mac trimmer. Okay, so what you would do in the real aircraft is, let me just change my view a little bit first. There we go. Is you would hold it on the test position, like so, and also we got a warning here in op, which is all good. And what actually happens is the trim indicator on the first officer's control column moves to the full extended position. And the control column moves aft slightly. So that's something that you would see in the real DC-9. And then you would select override and the same annunciator light should come on. And then you select it back to the norm position. Anyway, so we've also checked our pressurization, and we can also do a barometric correction, and then after the transition altitude, select it back to 29092. Okay? So pressurization is done. Warning and caution lights have been tested. Fire warning has been tested. And before starting the engines, which we are going to do now, we need to turn on the auxiliary pump. Yeah, this is Sky Simulations DC-9 for Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 and 2024. Oh, that's quite interesting. Manflex are going to fly the... I think the CRJ would be really interesting. I mean, everyone's flying 737s, but no one is really flying CRJs. So if I were you, I would do that one. Okay, so fuel has been checked, brakes are set, flight instruments have been checked. Okay, so let us now discuss a little bit about the takeoff. I mean, not the takeoff, where we are. We're at Memphis and we're going to fly some VORs. Okay, enough all the talking, let's get started. So fuel boost pumps all need to be on for engine start, even the center ones, like so. Yeah, GPU is definitely disconnected. Okay, so let's get started. So we're going to turn our packs off now. Verify we have at least 35 psi for engine start. Now let's go ignition, ground start. And let's start engine number 2. Oh, sorry. Yeah, of course. Phil. It is available. The add-on is very much available. They have quite a prehistoric website though. Okay, 20% N2, fuel on. There we go. Engine number 2 is running. And look at all that soot. Then at 37% N2, you can release the starter. You can go starter cutoff. And now we're going to start engine number 1. Let's also call for the pushback. He's waiting right here, actually. Oh, our doors are still open. Give me a second. Cockpit door, close it off. Move the chocks. There we go. A little bit careless there. And... yep, there we go. Fuel on. Just waiting for 37% N2, then I can go start a cutout. There we go. Parking brakes release. Let's do the pushback. Let's also get the anti-collision lights on, like so. Let's get the nose lights on. Okay, so let's go start a cutoff, like so. And let's just get out of the way. Okay, parking brakes set to park. Let's clean up a little bit. So you can see the left and right hand side engine-driven generators, they've not come online. So all we need to do is reset them like so. There we go. Left gen is on and taken precedence over the APU. And similarly, right hand side gen. And there we go. We can check the outputs. Leave the selector on the right hand side one. And yeah, let's get the galley power on now. And APU buses, I like to leave them down, okay, in case there's any problems. So in flight, I can just start the APU. Okay, APU air off and APU master can go off, like so. And after about 1 minute, this will cool down and shut down. Let's get the probe heats on, like so. Just cleaning up. Let's get our packs on. Let's set them to auto this time instead of HP bleed off. And a couple of warnings left. Anti-skid. It's about time we arm that, else I'm gonna forget. And yeah, that's the overhead panel cleared. Okay. It's a pretty neat aircraft and quite intuitive. Let's also get the speed brakes armed. And let's get our flaps out. Let's go flaps 10. Also checking our weight and balance. We can set our stab trim. So we need to look at this little graph over here. And yeah, flaps 10 for takeoff, and trim should be 3.3. Okay, so there we go. Stab trim is set. And let's now taxi, and we'll discuss our takeoff performance, including our V speeds. Okay. Also, the first VOR I'm going to go to is Little Rock, which is 115.10. So let's add that in. Yeah, no problem at all. And it's quite surprising, actually, that no one seems to be flying this aircraft very often. Also, we need to do our flight control checks, so let's do that now. And one thing I want you to notice when doing the flight control checks is when I go full nose down, okay? Whoa, some other aircraft has overtaken me. That's quite rude of him. It looks a bit like an Embraer. Anyway, so flight control checks. So I'm going to go full nose down and notice what happens on the annunciator panel. There we go. Did you see this light that comes on? Let me do it again. That light is elevator power on. So when you go full nose down on the DC-9, although the DC-9 is all mechanical, there is a little bit of hydraulic assist for the elevator as well. So you can see elevator power on. So that's a quite interesting thing, which not too many people know about. Anyway, so let's discuss our takeoff performance. So coming over here, we have a very mechanical version of the takeoff engine rating item. It's a slider basically. So we have a couple of things. We have standard takeoff, we have flight takeoff, static takeoff. We have maximum cruise, maximum climb, maximum continuous thrust. So for flight takeoff today, it's with the temperature given, it's suggesting an EPR of about 2.0. So let's do that now. So let's select our EPR bugs to 2.0 for takeoff. And for the other one as well, EPR 2.0. I just hate how these AI aircraft just muck in and try and overtake you. Anyway, so let's let him take off first. We've still got one more thing to do, which is takeoff performance. So there's a very preliminary takeoff performance data given by SkySim for the DC-9, and it's just given in terms of weight. So our weight today is, let's see, takeoff weight, is this in kilograms or is this in pounds? I think this is in pounds. So yeah, so it's giving us a V speed of, give me a second. Oh, there's another aircraft taking over. So it's giving me a V speed of V1 of 115 knots, rotate 118, and V2 127. So let's bug in a V2 plus 10 of 137 knots, okay? Also on later DC-9s, there's a go-round flight director mode, so you can use that for takeoff, but our early DC-9 doesn't have that. Couple of other things, speed brake is armed, like so. And yeah, let's now continue on. Also, let's consult the FCOM. Let's consult the FCOM for before takeoff. Also, we need our strobe lights on. Let's get the landing lights on as well. These are extendable. Looks really nice, you know. Okay, we've already done our electrical checks. Pitot heat is on. Air conditioning is set. Also, the cross bleeds can be off now. We don't need them anymore. We've started our engines, and by turning them off, you allow each engine to independently supply its pneumatic system. But one consideration is that if you are using anti-ice, engine anti-ice, and with a wing anti-ice, you need to turn those cross bleeds back on, otherwise you won't have any anti-ice. Okay, so yeah, before takeoff, briefing is complete. Let's also signal the flight attendant as well. And actually, let's forget about that. Let's let me see what else. Anti-skid is armed. Strobe lights, they're on. And yeah, annunciator panel is checked. Except rudder travel unrestricted. Light is on. That will go off at about 60 knots or so. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And I think we're ready to go. Let me just put the parking brakes on shortly. I just want to select our runway heading as well. So let's do that. There we go. Notice the flight director is now nicely centered. And yep, our navigation is on. So now we can track our first VOR. There we go. And the first VOR is Little Rock 115.10. Okay, so let's get started now. So parking brakes release. Also, we can check our flaps over here. Flaps 10. So let's set takeoff thrust now. So we're going to spool up a little bit. Let it stabilize. There we go. Stable. And set takeoff thrust now. There we go. Takeoff thrust is set. 80 knots, 100 knots now. V1 rotate. V2. There we go. Positive rate, gear up. There we go. Okay, now let us set our climb thrust. So if we go over here, it actually tells us what we should select. And it should be about 1.8 EPR. Okay, approaching 250 knots. I'm going to engage the autopilot now and select IAS hold. There we go. Also, let's get the flaps up. And let's pull back to EPR of 1.8 for the climb out. There we go. There we go, EPR 1.8, so we're nicely accelerated to 250 knots. And yep, now our course deviation indicators come alive. Let's center it. And then we can... There we go. And we're still on heading select, so let's go heading select now. And let's fly to the first VOR, Little Rock. There we go. And a really nice view. The DC-9 is something that's really nice. Anyway, let's also check cabin pressurization. Okay, coming up on 10,000 feet, we can now dial ourselves to the next level. So let's go to 25,000 feet. Also, we can go VOR lock as well. That automatically takes us off heading select. And we'll track our VOR. We've got a master warning, and yeah, the aircraft has failed to pressurize. This is a known issue with this aircraft. So I'm going to select the outflow valve to manual and just close it momentarily. And that actually fixes it. So we'll set it to close. Notice it's all catching up now. Let's go back to heading select. VOR lock is doing something strange. Let me also check my little nav map, see where's Little Rock in comparison. So the bearing should be about, it says 268, so I think I've got in the wrong direction. So there we go, that's better. There we go, that's a proper one. Okay, so now I can set it back to the auto position and it should settle down. We can also accelerate now to 300 knots. So let's go back to vertical speed. Let's dial ourselves down a little bit and pick up speed. And once we've reached 300 knots, then I'll go IAS hold again. Also, another thing that we can do now is we can turn our auxiliary hydraulics off and engine driven back to low, and it should read about 1500 psi. Yep, that all checks out. Let's get the nose lights off, landing lights off, like so. That improves our performance. And coming to the overhead, let's get the seatbelt sign off. I mean, I know it's a cargo aircraft, it doesn't mean anything, but you know. And also, approaching 10,000 feet, I need to set our air auto shut off to override. There we go. There we go. We've reached about 300 knots. Let's go back to IAS hold. Oh, what a view, isn't it? What a view. can also go back to VOR lock. Also, let's check our EPA ratings. Maximum climb, we can now go to 1.9 EPR, so let's do that now. So let me set my EPR bugs. There we go. 1.9. It's quite nice. Now we have some extra performance gain. So I quite like this system, you know. And this is where so many flight simmers get this wrong. That they don't know what this is. Or they think it's just for takeoff. And it's a bit like FMS EPR. But real nice. Now we've got better performance. Okay, so what altitude did I say I was going at? 25,000 feet, so let's do that. This is just an altitude reminder at the end of the day. And I'll show you now how to do altitude capture as well. Also, yeah, let's set our altimeters 29092. And yeah, let's capture our altitude. So we're approaching 25,000 feet. So what you do now is we go back to vertical speed like so. And let's slowly dial ourselves down to altitude hold, okay? Don't be too drastic. This can cause problems, can actually cause you to descend also. So gently dial yourselves down to a vertical speed of 0, which is the same as altitude hold. Also for our pressurization or barometric correction, we need to set back to 292. Let's just ensure we are on altitude hold. Yep, and we are. There you go, 25,000 feet, altitude hold. We can also change our flight director mode to altitude hold if we wanted to. So there we go, perfectly. And let's ease back on the throttles as well. And let's maintain about 300 knots. Also, if anyone has any questions, and please just write them in the chat. I'll be more than happy to help out. Also, we have cruise rating as well over here. Maximum climb, and there's a cruise also, I think, somewhere. But it doesn't matter because when you're in altitude hold, you're following a speed anyway. Also observe as we're getting lighter and we're set at the same altitude, there's a tendency for the aircraft to speed up a bit, so you have to keep pulling back. Don't want to go above red line. Hey, hello Air Holland, how are you doing? Today we're just flying the DC-9 today on some VOR to VOR navigation and following real Eastern Airlines FCOMs, so proper tutorial. How's your Friday been? Okay, so we seem to have deviated a little bit, so let's fly to our next VOR now, 113.60. So let's go back to turn knob, autopilot mode, and let's adjust our frequency. Oh, that is strange. And let's go heading select. So this is the Sky Simulations DC-9, and it came out, I think, some time back, maybe a year or two ago. And yeah, not many people actually fly it for some reason. I mean, there are issues with it. It's not perfect, but it's not the worst either. Like MS Scenery, that 737-100. It's definitely not on that level. So it's kind of okay, but at the same time, it's quite good fun as well. There was another DC-9 for P3D called Cool Sky DC-9. That was quite a good one. Even the circuit breakers used to work on that one. Yeah, the cockpit is okay, as long as you don't get too close. If you get too close, then you can see the polygons or whatever, so you gotta keep your distance, okay? It'd be like, when you're at the television, if you go too close, you see the pixels. And if you ever grew up with CRT televisions, where the really heavy ones, if you went too close, then there were actually scan lines. So as long as you keep your distance, you're okay. And if you see earlier on in my stream, when I started the aircraft, it was actually nighttime, and the view actually was a lot better. Yeah, don't go too close, is all I say. Actually, let me show you while we're here. If I... Okay, what's going on? with autopilot has something strange happened. I don't know. But we're okay. There's nothing wrong. I think I was doing sim rate, so if I show you the weather, if I just change the time a little bit, see how the night view looks. It looks quite nice, doesn't it? Or the lighting. Yeah, I knew you would like it. The night lighting in particular is excellent. How do I like Microsoft 2024 so far? It's okay actually. The performance has been quite decent. I've not got any issues. Only thing which I didn't like, and I still don't like, is the control assignments. I just can't get used to those. So there's actually a way in settings where you can revert back to Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 keyboard assignments, which is quite handy. Only thing is, when you spawn up the aircraft at the gate, it puts you in walk around mode. And when you're in that configuration of 2020, there's no way to enter into the cockpit. So that's the annoying item. So I have to go back to settings, change the keyboard settings to 2024, then press Shift C to get into the cockpit, and then revert back to my 2020 settings. I know it's a bit strange, but maybe I'll figure it out with the 24, but just not got there yet. Otherwise, the performance is okay. It's quite smooth. Only thing is with these Xbox services is it doesn't save your settings for some reason. So every time I enter the sim, it's changed all my graphics settings back to DLSS, and so I have to again change it. So that's annoying. And you know, that's the thing about this one. It has some strange, so you have to go to your Windows and go to search, click services. No, I'm not on Xbox, but the problem is this has quite a lot of Xbox components in it. So you have to make sure that even if you're on PC, you have to make sure that your Xbox app is up to date, you're signed in, and if you go to your start menu, you type in services, you go right to the bottom, and there's a couple of Xbox items like live game save and sync and data sync. All those need to be on. They need to be set to automatic and set to start. Because if you don't, then there's weird things that happen when you start up the sim. It doesn't sync your game, or sometimes it won't let you sign in, or it throws at you error code 2000, which is upsetting. So you have to be careful about those things. And those issues I never had when I was in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. So yeah, it's quite annoying. So the night lighting is really good on this aircraft. Exactly, modern gaming. It's got its perks, but have you tried out X-Plane? I recently tried it because Microsoft was giving me all these problems. So I said, let me go to X-Plane a little bit. And the performance was actually really good. I was on the Fearless 747 and I was getting 60 frames per second, which is quite good. a little bit of a cabin tour. You can see the majestic wing. Oh, I see. X-Plane 11 is... I used to use it a little bit for the 727 of FlyJSim. And other than that, I don't really use it that much. And believe it or not, this DC-9, the Ameristar one, is very much in service. Okay, so we are within range of the next VOR, so let's center the course deviation indicator. Let's turn towards the VOR. You can also go VOR lock as well, like so. And we can also change our flight director mode as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start the descent. So let's descend quite early on so we don't have to rush later. So I'm going to pull back on the throttles. And at 300 knots, I'll switch to IAS hold and we'll start the descent. And that is actually the recommended procedure as per Eastern Airlines DC-9s. So there we are, 300 knots, IAS hold. And also let's set our altitude reminder. This doesn't actually do anything in terms of altitude capture. It's just a reminder. So when you're within 1,000 feet or so of your altitude, it gives you an alert. We can also set our pressurization. We can lower our maximum altitude, but we have to be a bit careful because we don't want it overtaking. So I'm going to set it down to about, let's say, 18,000 feet for now. And as we get lower and lower, then ultimately I'll just set in the landing elevation. Okay, so we're approaching our altitude. So if we were to level off, for example, at 15,000 feet, I would go back to vertical speed and slowly pull ourselves back to altitude hold, which is a vertical speed of 0 feet per minute. Okay, so the next VOR is a 114.60. So let's turn ourselves back to turn knob and let's put 114.60 now. And now we just center course deviation indicator. And we can go back to heading select if we wanted to. And just track the new course. Also, you can see our center tank pumps have emptied out, so I can turn off the center pumps. There should be a center pressure low light that should illuminate to warn us about that. But it doesn't seem to be modeled here. Also, for the descent, it's also a good habit that as you come closer to your destination, you turn on the auxiliary hydraulics and you switch the hydraulic engine-driven pumps back to high. So now we go from 1500 psi to 3000 psi of hydraulic pressure. And that's very essential for stuff like speed brakes, gear extensions, and flaps. Okay, so we've approached our next VOR, so I'm going to go back to heading select, and we're going to track our next waypoint, so which is heading up 186, I think. And let's continue descending. Also, I'll change my flight director back to heading mode, like so. Let's go down to, say, 10,000 feet. And as we approach 250 knots, I'm going to select IAS hold again. Also, I'm going to set up the ILS frequency for the runway, which is 109.35. Just going to pre-select that for the time being. Okay, coming to about 10,000 feet, so we can get the landing lights on. Yeah, the state of this cockpit is indeed better. The one at Amsterdam is not very good. It's been heavily abused over time. All the gauges have been pulled out. There's lots of, in the starter switches have been pulled out. And lots of switches are removed. I think it's under renovation now. Okay, so we've intercepted the glide slope, and now we've caught onto the ILS. So now just doing a manual landing. So before landing checks, gears down, flaps are extended, speed brakes are armed. We don't have auto brakes on this aircraft. Okay, so that was a very eventful landing. The DC-9 does need to be landed manually. You can do a bit of a ILS landing using the ILS selection, but somehow on this add-on, when you try and land, it's very unstable. The aircraft, it tends to exhibit strong short pitch period oscillations along the pitch axis for some reason. Plus you have to manage your auto throttle. The DC-9 does actually have an auto throttle for approach only, and it's actually showing over here, but it's not actually modeled on this aircraft. You can't use this auto throttle for cruise or anything. It's only for approach. So that's a interesting item. The aircraft doesn't have auto brakes as well, and the braking action was quite strong. As you said, I stopped, and within 10 feet I was already stopped. So now we can accomplish the shutdown of the aircraft. So let's do that quite quick. So let's get the APU started. So we'll start up APU. So then we can shut down our engines and still have air conditioning as well as electrical power. Okay, so starting up from the top, we can get galley power off, and seatbelt, no smoking can go off. Probe heats can go off, windshield heats as well. We can get our boost pumps off, except the right hand side boost pump. That's needed for the APU. Okay, the APU power is available, and you can check its output as well. And always the engine-driven generators have precedence over the APU. We can also open up the cross bleeds as required. Now we can shut down our engines. So let's move the fuel control switches to cutoff. We can also get APU air on and put our pneumatic supply to HP bleed off. And anti-skid now we can switch off. Your damper also should go off. The auto air conditioning shut off should be in the armed position now. And yeah, that's pretty much the overhead panel done. Coming over here, our throttles at idle, flaps, slats in up position. We can get the auxiliary pump off, like so. Can turn our transponder off as well. And also let's retract our lights. And just keep the position light on for the time being. Okay, so that's pretty much it today. We've done a successful flight in the Ameristar DC-9, and I hope this has been a useful tutorial. We've learned how to fly the DC-9 as well as starting it up, and how to manage the systems using real FCOM procedures. And we've also learned a bit about how to use the autopilot, being very different from the traditional autopilots that we are used to. So I hope this tutorial has been engaging, interesting. The visuals have also been very stunning, and we'll see you next week with another interesting aircraft in a tutorial masterclass. And thank you for everyone who's joined, and we'll see you next week. Have a good weekend.